If your marketing isn't scaring you, if you're not getting phone calls from relatives asking you if you've lost your mind, what on earth are you doing? The language in your marketing, your message is probably so watered down that nobody's going to notice it.
Welcome to the Masters of Business podcast with Daniel Beer.
Hey guys, welcome back, Masters of Business. And today we're going to talk marketing. I'm going to bring you 7 marketing principles that will absolutely change the results you're getting. Most small business people get stuck, spend far too much money, don't get a result, and don't really even know what the result is. And it's these 7 principles that, if applied to your business, will make a gigantic difference in what you see. At the end of the day, you're a small business person. I'm a small business person. You and I are not Nike, Reebok, Budweiser. You and I do not have the budget to go and put commercials out during the Super Bowl of croaking frogs, just hoping people will automatically buy our beer just because some frog said Bud, right? Like, that's not going to work out well for you and I. You and I cannot just go out and say, hey, just do it. Vague, not really clear, making the audience understand exactly what to do and how to take action. And so today, we're going to deep dive on 7 principles that I hold tight in marketing and apply to business and see a very disproportionate result to what other people get, often spending, I should say, far more money than I have to, but we get a bigger result. And a lot of it rooted in direct response marketing, a lot of it rooted in the teachings of Dan Kennedy that I've done a huge deep dive on over the years, and I definitely encourage you to become a student of his. And a lot of what now I even teach in a marketing community that we have. And so I'm going to bring you from inside that community. I'm going to bring you 7 principles that you can go take action on right now. And let's just jump in. The first one sets up the conversation really, really well. The first one is branding as a byproduct of response only. Okay, so you only pursue branding as a byproduct of response. Let me explain what this means. Going back to that Budweiser example, the croaking frogs. Well, that's just a pure branding play. It's a multi-$100 million campaign that eventually they hope will get you to buy some beer. But because you and I don't have a budget that way, you and I, instead of just blasting the marketplace with a vague message, hoping to get somebody to finally recognize, right, like your message and then take action and buy your product, buy your service. Instead, if your branding takes place only inside your database as a result of a response that you have elicited from your audience, now you can bring people into your database at a far lesser cost per lead, far lesser cost per contact, and then incubate them inside your database via email, via phone call, and you can do it for virtually free. So how do you get them there is principle number 2. You have to make an offer. And so principle 1 and 2, I'm going to go back and forth on these right now. They work together, but you have to make an offer in what you're putting out there. Say in the real estate space, there's a lot of real estate agents that will just say something like, hey, I'm the neighborhood expert. Hey, I'm the friendly guy next door. Well, that's all really good and well, but where is the offer that you are making? What's the reason? Let's just rephrase this. What is the reason that you're giving your audience to respond? Why should they respond right now? And are you making it safe for them to respond if they do not want your service now? And see, that's the key. So how do you get them into your database when your service is actually not even something they're going to want, or your product's not something they're going to want for maybe a month or 6 months or 6 years, but they're curious. So most people are in the information gathering stage. Most people are on the curiosity stage, open to just learning, but you're educating themselves on what it is that you offer and the possible solutions, your service or product being one of them, but they're not ready to raise their hand and say, hey, salesperson, please talk to me. That's maybe 5% of the audience at best. The other 95% is in an information gathering state or just in an indifferent state. So when you make an offer it doesn't mean that that offer has to be, hey, come buy from me. In fact, the vast majority of the time, it is download this free guide. Watch this video that'll give you some edge, right? Do it on your time frame. Maybe it's join a webinar where they can learn something, and can they join even anonymously while if they don't want maybe say people to see that they're attending. But how can you and what offers can you make to get people to respond? And in fact, this is such a big concept, it's so important that if you think about radio commercials that you've heard in the past, where people want to, they say, call in, we'll send you the information kit, and it's free. Well, then why would they do that? Why would they spend their money on the radio commercial to have you call in for a free thing? Well, because what they're doing is if that commercial costs them, $1,000 and 1,000 people ask for the free thing, then they've essentially created 1,000 leads at $1 a pop. How much more expensive would it have been if they said, call in and buy the service? Call in and we'll swipe your credit card. Would they have gotten 1,000 responses? No, maybe they would have gotten 4 or 6 or 10 or 0. And so they know their math. They know that out of 1,000 responses, they're going to make X amount of sales, and they can turn a profit at a much greater degree, much bigger ROI than had they had that more direct offer, right? So number one is branding happens inside the database. Thinking about those 1,000 responses, those 1,000 leads this company would have generated. Now inside the database, they can run an email campaign. They can run a text message campaign. They can call those people, and they can watch their activity and nurture them over time from a more education-based perspective or angle. And they're playing the long game. They don't need the sale now. They just need to bring the response into the database as inexpensively as possible to then nurture them in the long run to get business and sales that other salespeople are just simply not going to get. It's the reason why a lot of times people say, like, you'll watch somebody from a particular lead source get this huge result while other people are getting a small one, or people in an industry, forget the lead source, people in an industry that just seem to always have business lined up. Where does that come from? Well, it comes from leads generated at a very small cost using this understanding that the branding will happen in the database. Let's just bring them in as inexpensively as possible. And so a lot of those people, those contacts, those companies generated maybe sometimes 6 months ago or years ago, and they're finally just popping because they were able to build a relationship with them inside the database where they did build brand, where they did build presence and expertise and thought leadership. But they did it at a cost that would be absolutely impossible to get should they have had just the hey, call me if you want to buy right now. Well, then very few people call. So number one is branding is a byproduct of response only. And number two, make an offer. Always make an offer. But that offer doesn't have to be to buy. It can be to learn. It can be to grow, to join a commune. It can be a lot other offers than just simply to buy. Number three, use bold language. So in your marketing, if it sounds watered down, here's the rule that I live by, okay? If your marketing isn't scaring you, if you're not getting phone calls from your mom or your aunt or your, someone who cares about you saying, Dan, what on earth are you doing? Have you lost your mind? You're going to go broke. You're going to get taken advantage of. You're going to go bankrupt. If your marketing doesn't scare you some as you're putting it into the mailbox or messaging it out on the internet, if you're not getting phone calls from relatives asking you if you've lost your mind, then the language in your marketing, in your message, is probably so watered down that nobody's going to notice it. See, the consumer has so much messaging flying at them, and you know this. You already know this. You experience it. You are a consumer as much as you're a business person and salesperson. So there's so much messaging and just junk flying at us all day, every day, that we do not notice. See, the brain is wired to only pay attention to what is going to help us thrive or survive, right? Like, is that thing going to help me thrive, or is that thing going to kill me? And how do I avoid being killed? Those are the things that the brain pays attention to, and everything else is just simply watered down, bland, doesn't seem like a threat, but also doesn't seem like a big opportunity that can make your life go to that next level. Then the brain just simply filters out that information, just sort of washes it away, doesn't bring it to your conscious mind. What comes to your conscious mind are what will help you survive or thrive. And so bold language, I want you to think about guarantees, risk reversal. How can you shoulder the burden that the consumer perceives they will have, the risks they perceive they will take on, and how can you shoulder that on their behalf? Now, I'm emphasizing the word perceive, the risks they perceive, the burdens they perceive. The reason that I am emphasizing that word is because the true risk, the true burden, the true downside is most often not as severe as the public would perceive it to be. But you know that because it's your business. You know the inner workings. You know how it all truly functions, and they're making assumptions. They're scared because it's new to them. You're not, because you control many of the variables in your grasp. And so you also get to write the rules around these guarantees. And the guarantees can be as simple as the old-fashioned, satisfaction guarantee, which is not a great one. Why is the satisfaction guarantee not a great one? Well, because it's not bold language. Law number 3, the one we're on. Versus, in my business, I ran for a long time, a guarantee where we would guarantee to sell their home at 100% of the asking price, or we'd pay the difference. And we'd emphasize 100% of your asking price, or we'll pay the difference. Call for terms and details. And of course, in the terms and details are the rules that we wrote in order to protect ourselves, have less risk than the perceived risk. And when you create that gap, people will pay. People will pay for that gap, for you to shoulder that burden on their behalf. But to you, that burden is not as heavy. It's actually quite light because it's your industry, it's your business, and it's your rules. For them, it feels like a load has been taken off, and they will pay for that. They will respond to that. They will pay attention to that. When their brain's filtering through messages, I imagine always somebody is sitting at their, or they've just gone to the mailbox, they've got a stack of just mail, and they're standing over a trash can, and they're just trash, just flicking everything into the trash can. And then they see my message and they go, whoa, what's that? And we get them to pause for a quick moment. How can you stop the scroll, so to speak? How can you stop the trash can flick? How can you get them to give you a little bit more attention? And once they do, law number 4, give clear instructions. Treat your consumer as you would a second or third grader. Tell them exactly what steps to take, what order to take them in, and even when to take them. Make it totally dummy-proof. Tell them exactly what to do. Do not assume that they know to go to that website, that they know to scan that QR code, that they know to call in, mail in, or whatever it is that you're wanting them to do. Do not make that assumption. Instead, spell it out very clearly. Here's the next step. The only thing left for you to do is take this step now and spell it out. A, B, C. Give clear instructions. I learned this lesson, by the way. I was doing these home selling workshops, and the workshop just frankly it was good. Okay. Like, it was good. I still do them to this day, by the way. And we'd fill a room with home sellers, potential home sellers in the education stage. who, by the way, responded to an offer to attend a workshop, not to buy. We got them into the database, build a relationship, nurture them. So you see how some of this comes together. But in any case, I learned this lesson at my first several workshops where I knew I was nailing it. Like, it was good, man. I was absolutely crushing the presentation. Audiences on edge. They're like, everyone's locked in. And I'd go to end the presentation and I would just end it soft, not with bold language, right? Not making an offer, and definitely no clear instructions. I would end it simply with, so, hey, I hope you've enjoyed it and look forward to talking to you. Like one of those weak endings. And in my mind, they were just going to flock and list their homes. Well, so what would happen is they weren't given any clear instruction, and they would simply smile, shake our hand, say this was fantastic, go on their way, and they'd be gone. And we'd have very few appointments booked. Maybe one or two out of a room of 25, 30 people that are in this presentation who came, think about this, who drove across town to sit in on a 90-minute presentation about selling their home. You think they're interested in selling their home? Yeah. Get no appointments, or very, very few. So then I realized, okay, hold on, I'm violating the rule of giving clear instructions. So then the next time I went to do the presentation, I ended by splitting the room in half and instructing them, this side of the room, please stand up now. Look over your right shoulder. You're going to see so-and-so person sitting at the, Sally, sitting there at the desk. Walk over toward her now, and she will take care of you and book your free equity analysis, your staging walkthrough, and your home improvement audit, which has been promised to you. So I had made an offer now as well. Go ahead and do that now. Everyone on this side, stand up. You see so-and-so over your left shoulder. Go and do the same thing. As soon as you're done with that, I will be over in this particular area. I'll be answering questions. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you in just a moment. And so, look, I don't know if that's the best close or not. But here's what I know. I gave far more clear instruction. I also made an offer at the conclusion of the workshop. Very clear instruction on how to take advantage of it. And I directed them. Well, the result is more than half the room on a consistent basis since then to this day, and it's been years since, books an appointment on the spot. And of course, our results are way up. So it's just funny how that happens. You tell someone what to do, they do it. I was at dinner just last night with a friend. He's an RIA, great business he runs. He's just a phenomenal wealth manager, financial advisor. He's just a great guy, by the way. Love connecting people with him. And he was describing how he was taking down a big account. And in the past, he'd say, I'm going to need two forms of identification. I'm going to need this, that, the other, your trust. And he'd send them on their way and say, get it to me as soon as you can. And how many of those would just sort of die off. And he described how he finally one day said, and can you do that now? I'll wait right here. And people just said, okay, sure. And so he started getting the documentation on the spot. Guess what? Far less leakage out of his business. Give clear instructions. Now the next, 2, work together. Law number 5. Urgency. Anytime you can inject urgency into an offer, meaning giving people a reason why they have to act now, having a deadline to when the offer might expire. Well, I can't even stress. I don't know what this official number is, but I'm going to just say you're going to watch your results at the very least double. You might see them triple or quadruple. It is the most powerful thing you can do that doesn't cost you a dime and just moves people into action. People need a deadline. So whether it's that the offer is expiring at a certain time at a special price, and sometimes that's a 3-day window or a hour-long window, or it might be a 20-minute window if you're doing this on a webinar. But if you can create urgency as to why people need to act now, you're going to see results completely jump out the roof. And the one that goes right alongside it, law 6, is scarcity. And when you combine urgency and scarcity, my God, it works ridiculously well. It just speaks to the human psyche somehow that just makes people take action. Scarcity is that there's a limited amount of what you're putting out there. You can create scarcity. You can say, so for example, you might say, okay, well, I could see I have scarcity because I sell t-shirts. I only have 50 of them. So make it clear to people that I have only 50 t-shirts. By the way, that makes sense because sometimes people have only 50 t-shirts, but they don't mention that. They just say, hey, we're selling t-shirts. So yes, you'd mention you have 50, there's scarcity. But what if you're selling a service? What if you're a financial advisor like my buddy is? And in theory, you have unlimited capacity, or you're selling a digital product, which in theory has unlimited capacity. Well, you can create scarcity through geographic exclusivity. So, right, we're taking on only this many people per county, per state, per city. That creates scarcity. It also really creates urgency because they have to move quickly. Right? Scarcity has a way of creating urgency. That's why they just work so well together. And then imagine you say, and by the way, the offer expires by, right? So you get them to really take action. You go, oh my God, my competition's going to take action. There's only 2 spots in San Diego. I better So, and people move into action and they go. You can create scarcity it's just artificial scarcity, frankly. But you could say, look, I've created this course for people to learn to do X, Y, and Z. It's really, really special. I want to be connected to the people that are getting the course. And so we are putting out only 100 of them, 1,000 of them, 10 of them. It depends, of course, on the product, the course. But I'm just sharing with you how you can create scarcity even when it's not like I have 50 t-shirts, right? Like I literally do not have a 51st. It could be that there's only X amount of room or spots in a room for something you're inviting people to, maybe that home selling workshop. Maybe, frankly, I need to add scarcity to that workshop. And by the way, make sure you grab your seat now because there's only whatever it is that I want to say, 20 spots. Now, if you're going to do something like that, make sure there's actually only 20 spots. Don't say there's 20 spots and then have people show up and have there be 50 because you're going to look like crap. But where you can create scarcity, there's only X amount of, only this many people will be allowed in, exclusivity, club-like atmosphere, and you have scarcity, and you piggyback that on urgency. This offer goes away midnight tomorrow night. Then people take massive action. And it's the same product you have. It's the same service. You already went through the marketing. You already got the response. I mean, it's just a way to boost pure profit. It is pure bottom line profit when you do those two. And then finally, law 7. If you really want to take your marketing to a different level this year, it's just simply track and measure. You have to know where your results are coming from and where they're not. What do you need to do more of because it's working so well? What do you need to do less of because it's just draining your wallet? Not tracking and measuring is bananas. You have to simply understand what's creating the response. And there's tracking codes, there's special phone numbers you could apply where you know that if that phone number is the one ringing in, it is, or being rung, it's because of a certain campaign. It's a special dedicated URL that's only used in a campaign, so you know that campaign worked or didn't work. But you must track and measure. Branding as a byproduct only of response, okay? Branding as a byproduct of response only. Bring them into the database, nurture them once inside. You can do that far less expensively than just slapping your brand all over the place hoping for a phone call. Make an offer. Use bold language. Give clear instructions. Use urgency and scarcity, the two like undefeated secret weapons of marketing. It's done to you all the time. You know the feeling of, shit, I probably should do it now. You even know the feeling of, shit, I probably should do it now. I think they'll probably have this thing available later, but I don't really know. And okay, I'll do it now. Urgency and scarcity, and then track and measure. Take this to your marketing, and you will have a very different 2025 when it comes to your response from your audience. And this is Masters of Business. This is my passion subject, by the way, marketing. So I love bringing this on. I want to see in the comments, send me emails, get me on Instagram, send me social, and let me know what you've applied, how it's working for you. This is Masters of Business. Go crush it.